Chris, how are you?
I'm doing well, doing well.
You know, I'm so glad that you're here with me to talk about all kinds of really cool things. Starting with, can you give me a little background? Before Once Films, you were a still photographer, is that correct? And I'm curious if while you were a still photographer, you always knew that you wanted to be a filmmaker as well.
I was a still photographer. I went to school, went to college for art and photography specifically. I wanted to be a commercial and advertising photographer. I knew that, pretty early on. I didn't necessarily always want to be a filmmaker, but I always played with video, right? The challenge I had with it, or the frustration I guess I had with it, was that it was just cumbersome, right? Like I didn't like tape and I didn't like all the equipment. I thought that photography, for whatever reason, had more purity to it. But all along, I had a great mentor at the time that was sort of ringing the bell of video. He had been involved in a lot of professional organizations, and at that time, everybody was really nervous. Photographers were really nervous that video was going to basically take that market over. People were going to grab still frames, and that was going to be the new photography, right? And I don't think that's panned out that way, but it certainly opened my eyes to be more diverse and to expand my own creative, portfolio, so that it didn't really matter necessarily what the medium was, but I was making more traction and making a bigger impact by doing more video, or at the very least by having both under one umbrella.
So much of your work is so deeply moving to watch. Like the Spotlight series in particular, I just love it. And it makes me think that it requires like a significant immersion totally from you. How do you relax after such a production?
I wish I had some miracle sort of, release, but I stay in that space all the time. I feel like that work, even though, it may not change the world, is and can be incredibly important for some people. I'm grateful every day that I get a chance to do this and to tell those stories. You mentioned the Spotlight series. A good example of that is we did a piece about an older gentleman who was a watchmaker. He'd led a really challenging life. He grew up in Russia. He had everything taken from him. He immigrated to America, started over from scratch, built a business, started his watch collection back up, et cetera, et cetera. And when I first met him, the guy probably said, 2 or 3 words. He was very quiet. But he agreed to let me film him working on watches. But when we interviewed him, he just sort of opened up and told his life story.
Wow.
So we made this short film and showed it to he and his family and a crowd of people, and they cried. And his family was so appreciative that after him being 75 years old, that this was this token of his life, or at least something that captured the soul of what he did and what he'd gone through. Being a part of that and hearing those conversations afterwards, I mean, that's the best feeling in the world. So part of me, not to sound like a martyr, but I don't really need to relax, because that alone is so fulfilling that I'm just incredibly grateful to have the opportunity.
Can you tell us a little more about the Spotlight series? I'm curious what started it, and do you have more on the calendar for later? Like what are you interested in spotlighting that you haven't yet?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Spotlight series really started as an experiment. We would say, hey, we got some new equipment, or I want to try this out. I want to play with slow-mo, or I want to play with a macro lens, whatever it was. What I started to realize, I think very quickly, was that the stories of these folks that we were featuring were the same stories that we experienced ourselves. They were trying to make a living at something they cared deeply about. So when I look at them now, I realize that they're infused with us. They're infused with the themes that we're challenged by as well. I did one in particular that I really believe is about fear. And it doesn't necessarily like really come out that way, but the undertone is about fear, and it's fear as a small business owner of failure and what that looks like. It's all these pieces that are like just infused into the individual work that I hope that when people see the collection, they're really getting to see
You
us.
feel like you have a community.
Exactly. So we sort of consider the first 10 that we did as volume 1, and we're actively working on volume 2 as we come out of, COVID quarantine, hopefully to get started on producing and to make the next round. But, we're trying to find all the things that are under the surface. The whole point is this idea of discovery. We want to help people discover things. We want to work with people that care about what they do, that want to tell the world about it, and hopefully like what we do. And if you put all those together, we're a perfect match. It's just work we love because we love those people. We love what we get to do with it. So, the opportunity to do more of it would be a godsend. The way, we work, or where we fit here at Once, is that, we've always intentionally been very small. And we started saying we're a boutique, film production company before boutique really became part of the vernacular, right? We're not going to be the biggest folks in town, but we've been really fortunate to be recognized with some of the really big awards in our industry. We want to bring the very best we can, and the very best we can play in that national stage, but then do it in a way that's really accessible and low key and easy, both for us, our clients, our subjects, and create work that we can just all be proud of. And then we have the flexibility and agility to pack everything up in our Sprinter van and drive across the country and go, film something.
When did the Sprinter van come into your collection of toys?
Yes. We're totally nerding out about the Sprinter, I'm not gonna lie, because it hits all the buttons for us, right? Basically, we've traveled all over. We mostly spend our time in airplanes. We've talked about we need a Sprinter van. We need a full conversion. We're gonna do it very Once style. So we bought a Sprinter van. We just stripped it out completely a weekend or two ago. We're rebuilding it from the ground up to basically, comfortably take 4 of us on the road. The whole back is completely kitted out with all of our equipment and shelving and organization. I've got a couple of off-road vehicles, so of course we put, roof racks and ladders and knobby tires, and it's 4-wheel drive so we can go anywhere. So it's a little over the top and ridiculous.
It's a time to celebrate thinking creatively, because so many of the other solutions that used to work just don't anymore.
What all of us in our industry are challenged with is sometimes being creative in a way we're not used to. And so we've rethought every process that we go through. Our travel and our transportation, we've purchased new gear and changed over things like that. And we really looked and said, hey, this is a rare opportunity for us to be still for at least 3, 4, 6 months, whatever that looks like. How can we take advantage of that opportunity? So, we were really fortunate to have, a solid enough business model going into this that we could absorb some of the financial hit. We always think, not the next step, but 5, 6, 10 steps down the road. So even with COVID and the current sort of recession of production dollars, we've not looked and said, well, how do we get more projects, right? Our whole operation is built around small, agile, really highly skilled teams. Our ability to get in and out of locations fast, to set up and shoot quickly, to bring artistry to our work, not just technical ability. Things going forward in the industry, I think we're really, really well, suited for, because it's not something we're adjusting to do. We've been thinking ahead and already done it. So,
one of my favorite Chris Ryan quotes is, you love something when you are exhausted at the end of the day, but you wake up the next morning and you can't wait to dive back in.
Right. Yeah, that was something I heard. I'm sure it was, from a book or a professor or something along those lines that I really took to heart. I mean, this is truly right now my purpose in life. I mean, what I'm doing is so fulfilling. And it's fulfilling not only because of the creative component and the making of, and to be able to like show this is what we made, but it's also the interactions and connections I've made like within our own company and at work. You know, it's the friendships and sort of family we've built even internally, like how much we care about like the people I'm working with. And it even extends to our clients. I mean, the personal relationships we've developed with our clients have been, you know, really strong. You know, all of that across the board just, you know, makes me want to do it more. It makes me want to get up every morning and work harder and push the envelope and see what we're capable of. And it's just so much damn fun. I can't stand it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Cannot wait to check in for part 2.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been a blast to be a part of this. I'm honored to be, you know, a member of Workbook. I'm honored to be, you know, part of the stable of great work that you guys represent. So to be part of this is just super cool.